Hi, everyone, and welcome to the session on doing paper one for your government Matric Afrikaans final exam. So we've had a lot of people's, asking for help with paper one. Paper three is done. Some of you might have felt that you did really well in paper three. Others might feel that you didn't do very well and you've got to use paper one to pull your marks up. And definitely paper one is an area that you must target for being able to pull your marks up. So what I wanted to go over first was just, to show you how your exams are calculated. Yes, your portfolio mark does count 25% of your final mark. And your final exam, so your papers one, two, and three, count 75% of your final mark. So obviously these exams are really important, and you need to be clever about how you approach the exams. So paper three is done. You guys have done it, and hopefully you've got some decent marks in the bag. Now for paper one, you need to be very tactical about how you approach the exam. So a lot of people do the exam in the order of the exam paper. And what I have found is that with the comprehensions, if you do get a bad comprehension, it can throw you for the whole exam. And so, what I usually suggest to my students is that you leave the comprehension to the end because you don't want to start the exam on the back foot, which is often what happens is people start reading the comprehension and then they start panicking and they go, I don't know what this is about. And then you get into a negative mindset. And then things that you might have got right in the exam, you get wrong because your head is in the wrong space. So I would suggest starting with your TOL first. And as you can see that there are three sections of your TOL, question three, four, and five. So question five is pure language. And you can even start with that one because you can see together between your summary, your advertisement in TOL, your cartoon in TOL, and your TOL, that's already 50 out of the 80 marks. So that is where your focus needs to be. Don't worry about the comprehension. Yes, it is important, but it's not vital. It's not the be all and end all. And I would rather leave it to the end and run out of time doing my comprehension than run out of time doing my TOL, where you probably could have got better marks. So, and then for paper two, when you guys eventually do paper two, it's equal. So poetry is 35 and Philosophia is 35. So there you can start with either one, whichever you feel more comfortable in. Some people know Phila better than their poems or the other way around. And so that's what I would do. Again, do the work you know well first and then leave the work that you're not so sure of, leave it to the end. It's all about building confidence. You don't want to start with stuff you're not sure of, and then you just sort of spiral after that. So this is what I suggest you do for paper one, and I've given you the time allocation. The reason why I've done this is I do suggest you do a practice exam before you start writing the exam. And you can find old practice exams on the Department of Education website. They give you the memos as well. And I would definitely do at least two practice exams before you write your final exam. And you're going to do these practice exams exactly the way that you would do them for finals. So if you are, if you're going to be doing editing and planning, do your editing and planning. That's really, really important. Never go into an exam blind. So practice, especially if you're going to start swapping the way you do the exam. You need to practice it beforehand. So I've suggested question five, question three, and then question four. Question five is pure grammar. Question three is a bit of grammar and the advertisement, and usually advertisements are pretty straightforward to do. Then you've got your grammar and your cartoon. Again, cartoons are maybe a little bit more complicated than advertisements, but it's still based around sort of common knowledge. Then summary is a technique, and it's something that definitely people should target. And I will be going over how to do the different sections, and then leave your long comprehension to the end. And you can leave yourself 40 minutes to do that long comprehension. So you can see here that the time allocation has just been flipped a little bit. Right, so I'm going to go through an exam paper and show you how you should tackle the exam paper. Okay, so what I've done here is I took the May exam from 2025, and the reason why I took the May exam was because the examiner of the May exam is going to be the examiner of the December exam. And so it's always a good idea to do that practice because it gets you used to the way that the examiner asks the questions. Very few people actually do the May exam, and it's a very useful tool. So what I've done here is I've done the exam paper in the order that you should be doing it. And you can see what I've chosen is to do the grammar bit first. So this is text F, and you don't need to read this. You don't need to spend time. It's not a comprehension. So you don't need to understand what all of this is saying. All this is doing is giving you the context of the words or the brackets. And the reason why they're giving you the context is for pronouns. So unless you need to find a pronoun, I would not read this. And then all you need to do is to go through down here and look at what are they asking me to do. So the first question was skryf die sin in die toekomende tyd. So what you would need to do here is you need to know what toekomende tyd means, which hopefully you know means future tense. Whenever you are working with a tense, the very first thing you do in a sentence is find the verb. And remember that there are two places to find a verb. The one is after your subject, and the other one is at the very end of the sentence before the infinitive. So remember, because of Stompy, you've got your verb one after your subject and your verb two at the end before your infinitive. So if you look at this sentence here, you can see there's no infinitive. Technologie is your subject, so word is your first verb. Now you need to go to the end and you need to say, is gebruik a verb or not? And it comes down to not translating because you're not always going to know what the word means. So now you need to use grammar. And this is where your knowledge of grammar becomes really important. So if technologie is your subject, word is a verb. If you have a look here, you've got in skole, in indicating your place. So remember in Stompy, what comes after place? Your verb. So here you know that this is your verb two and this is your verb one. So what they're doing here is they are testing, do you know how to write the future tense when you've got two verbs in a sentence? So what you're going to do here is you would have your subject, then you would write sal. You have the rest of the words, and then you have your verb one and then your verb two. So this is the formula that they are testing. So your answer here would be tegnologie sal al meer in skole gebruik word, because remember, the exception is that het, is, and word go at the very end of a sentence. Okay, remember that rule? Het, is, and word go at the very end of a sentence. So the answer here would be tegnologie sal al meer in skole gebruik word. Gee die korrekte vorm van die woord. So with the corrective form van die woord, corrective form is basically your parts of speech. So this is, are you going to form a noun? Are you going to form an adjective? Are you going to do a verb? Are you going to do an adverb? Also an infinitive. So those are the types of words that they're asking you to form when they say gee die korrekte vorm van die woord. And then all you need to do is here you find your bracket and you need to look and you need to say, okay, what kind of a word do I need to form? So here you've got the word maniere after the bracket. And here you would work out that maniere is a noun. So therefore this needs to be an adjective. How do I form an adjective? I add an E onto the end of a word. And when a word ends in an F and I'm adding an E, it changes to WE. So it's creatieve. You're not going to drop any of the vowels because remember the rule about dropping vowels is only if they are the same vowel. So your lettergrepe here is basically when you're breaking a word up into the sort of the phonetical parts of it. So if you've got afgelope, it would be af. Remember, you've got to have the dashes in the between ge, lo, pe. Sorry, that way around. Afgelopen. Basically, your lettergrepe is helping you break a word down into smaller parts so that you can spell it. And in Afrikaans, spelling is based on the sound of the words. So afgelopen. Voorzetsels, remember voorzetsels, prepositions, can either be literal or figurative. And so what you need to work out here is you need to work out, are they asking a literal voorzetsel or a figurative voorzetsel? And you would read the sentence. So, hierdie kompetisie is om te sien watter onderwysers tegnologie op die mees innoverende manier klaskamer gebruik word. So this is literal, and it would be in the classroom. A homonym. So remember, a homonym is a word that sounds the same, is spelt the same, but has a different meaning. So now you're looking at the word bay, and you need to say, what is the meaning of the word bay here? So in this case, it would be at, but there's another meaning for bay as well, and that is be. So you would say, die bay sit op die blom, or something along those lines. When you are trying to give a homonym for a word, you need to literally describe what the word is so that the teacher knows that you know that bay means bee. And the only way you can explain that you know that bay means bee is by using the word flower. I hope that makes sense. So when you're answering these things, be very literal. Like, assume that you are talking to somebody who knows nothing and you want to describe to them what a bee is. If you're not sure what the homonym is, sometimes it can be in the comprehension. Sometimes the word can be there, but not always. So this would be like a general knowledge thing. Here you've got another correcte vorm van die woord question. And remember, we said it was nouns, adjectives, adverbs, whatever. So you need to look for your clues. You always look before the bracket for the clue and after the bracket. And so here you've got D something keer. So D is telling you two things. It's telling you that it's a noun, because remember, and D tell you that the word following it is a noun. Or remember your trappe van vergelijken. You've got D and then you've got STE. So there are two possibilities here. But either way, you know that this is a noun. So you know that this needs to be an adjective. Okay? And all adjectives end in an E. So here, twee becomes tweede. So that's what a lot of people would write, tweede. But remember, your rule, when you're adding a vowel onto the end of a word and there's only one consonant, you only have one vowel. So it is tweede, and you know that this is an adjective because it's ending in an E. So you know that's correct. Here they ask for the oortreffende trap. If you can't remember what oortreffende means, just remember that trap is telling you it's trappe van vergelijken. And you know that there are two types of trappe van vergelijken. The one is ending in ER and the other one is ending in STE. So now you need to work out which is ER and which is STE. And the best way to do is to look for the word D. If you've got a D before the bracket, then you know it's STE. So you have a look here and you've got D, and then this is asking the exception. Remember, baie meer die meeste. So to be die meeste. And remember, it's not with an R. It's MEESTE. A lot of people put an R on the end. But again, it's an adjective, and adjectives end in an E. If you put an R on, then it becomes a person. Here we've got a voornaamwoord. So a voornaamwoord is a pronoun, and the way you can remember it is, if you have a look here, voor means in front of, and naamwoord is a noun. So it basically means in front of the noun, which is pronoun, means pro in front of the noun. So that's what a pronoun is. So here you would need to, so for pronouns, remember, you need to look at the context. So you need to know, are they talking about a man or a woman? Are they talking about singular or plural? So dit maak opgewonde om te weet hy werk met kinders. So this was talking about a man, and it is hom. What I suggest you do for pronouns is you use English. So when you're doing direct and indirect, or whenever you need to work out a pronoun, don't try and guess in Afrikaans, use the English. It makes him excited. And so you know that him is hom. A lot of people put hey because they were trying to guess like the pronoun. Don't guess, use English. It's one of the few times I say use English because at least we know the pronouns and they're the same in Afrikaans and English. Gee die correct Afrikaans for prize. Often when they ask, give the Afrikaans word, you can sometimes find the word in the exam paper if you don't know what it is. So you could have a look through this exam and you could see if maybe the word is mentioned in one of the comprehensions, in the cartoon or the advertisement or in the main comprehension. You can have a look for it if you really can't remember what the word is. Okay, so prize is a press. The infinitive. So a lot of people struggle. They don't know what to do with the infinitive. So the main thing you need to remember, the infinitive is te, followed by a verb. That's the main thing you need to know. So basically what they're saying here is the bit in brackets, where the bracket starts is the Okay. Then the only thing you need to do is to find the verb. The verb is here. And then you need to put the te before the verb. That's literally all you need to do. So when they ask you to form an infinitive in their brackets, you put the at the start of the brackets, you find the verb and you put the verb after the te. So your te would go here before vereer. Okay, antonym is the opposite. So what is the opposite of maklik? They love asking this word because everyone spells it incorrectly. Moeilik. So it's not M-O-O-I, it's M-O-E-I. Moeilik. And remember, you must keep it in the same form. So makkelijker is an adjective. You need to give moeiliker as an adjective. Maklik is an adverb. Moeilik is an adverb. And you must also just be careful of your intensive forms. All intensive forms that you learn are adverbs. If they're asking it for, like if they ask for never, and they want the intensive form of never, you must say splinter never, not splinter niet. Because splinter niet is an adverb. Splinter never is an adjective. Again, ending in an E. Afkortings, those you need to learn. It's easy if they give you the separate words here. You usually take the first letter. So it's D dot M dot V dot. When you have multiple words with an abbreviation, the dot goes in between to indicate a separate word, and you always have a full stop at the end. All right, let's go up to voegwoorde. So this one, they had two instructions here. They said, obviously, give the conjunction. If in the exam you are panicking and you have a look and you can't remember what a voegwoord is, the key thing is to remember is that every answer needs to be one sentence. So if they're giving you two sentences here, you know the only way you can join two sentences together is by using a conjunction. So that's the first thing. So you know you've got to join the two. The second thing is they're asking you to start with the conjunction. So now you need to look at nadat and you need to say what group conjunction is nadat. So first of all conjunctions that end in at are group 3. Also, all conjunctions that start a sentence are group 3. The only exception is al, which is a group 2. So now you know you've got nadat, which is a group 3 conjunction. So you're going to start with your conjunction. The rules are the verbs go to the end in the order verb 1 and then verb 2, except for het, is, and word. You have a comma because you're joining two sentences together. Then you have your first verb and you would have your second verb at the end. So this is the sentence construction that you are going to be using for this answer. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is that you need to know that with nadat, the sentence following nadat goes into the past tense. So that's why they were testing nadat. There were two rules. Group 3 conjunction, sentence after nadat goes into the past tense. So now, obviously, when you're dealing with conjunctions, you need to find the verb. So the verb in this sentence is is, and the verb in this sentence is is. So now you need to go, how do I put the sentence into the past tense? So you would know that is changes to was. So there for your answer would be nadat die kompetisie vir die eerste keer gehou was, comma, is die, and then you would have the rest of the sentence. So yes, you can have was and is together. And we do the same thing in English. If you think about it, nadat means after. So we would say in English, after I have read my book, I will go to sleep. So what we've done with after is we've got a past tense and a future tense in the same sentence. And it's the same thing in Afrikaans. In this case, we've got past tense and present tense. So you can, with nadat, you can have two different tenses in the same sentence. Remembering that nadat means after. Okay, this was another grammar question. You can see here you've got 4 people, and then it says vorm 'n persoonsnaam for a persoon wat foto's neem. So in other words, give one word for the person that takes photograph. And this is where a lot of people go wrong in Afrikaans. So a fotograaf is a photographer, and a foto is a photograph. Okay, so the answer here was fotograaf. Gee die correcte antwoord. Okay, so here they want you to answer, to choose, is it langs or lungs? So the difference between langs and lungs is there's no difference in the meaning. They both mean next to. The only difference is langs is an adverb and lungs is an adjective. So what you would need to do here, actually, sorry, I've misread this question. This is you're looking for a preposition. So here you've got your preposition because it's where are they sitting. So it's langs. Oh, the difference, I just wanted to go over lank and lung. That's what I wanted to do. So lank is an adverb and lung is an adjective. And the difference, but they both mean tall or long. So you would talk about die man is lank, so the man is tall, as opposed to die lang man. So that's the difference between an adverb and an adjective. Remember, an adverb describes a verb and an adjective describes a noun. And so your adverb goes in the manner position and your adjective goes before the noun. The next one was die verkleinvorm. So this was testing, do you know how to form a verkleinvorm when the word ends on a vowel? And that would be when you add TJIE. So to be troi key. Go over your verkleinvorm rules. They're very easy to learn. A lot of people still don't know their rules. And the rules are probably 98% of all the words that they are going to test. A verlede deelwoord. So a deelwoord is a verb that is changed into an adjective. Verlede meaning past. So here we've got Karen dra gestreep kous. So gestreep here is your verb, and you want to put it into verlede deelwoord. And the way you do that is you have your prefix, Then you have your main verb, and then you add either DE or TE onto the end. And so your prefix is going to be things like burger, her, onver, or miss. You have your verb, which is the obviously the main part of the word. And then with DE and TE, you only need to remember one of them. So DE is for words that end on a vowel or or. So that's when you're going to use DE. If you have a look here, gestreept has already got a g in front of it. So you don't need to add. So you'd have gestreept. Okay, and you keep your two E's because you've got two consonants there. Onkennende vorm, usually you've got to find the word that changes. So it changes to niks. Here they wanted you to fill in a word. Okay, so it says, kyk na die kinders se hare, look at their hair. Kayla het 'n vlegsel, Karen het 'n bolle en Jody het 'n kuif. Elkeen het 'n unieke. So they're asking for one word to describe what is unique about a vlegsel, a bolle, and a kuif. And you can see that in the picture. Vlegsel is a plait, bolle is a bun, and a kuif is a fringe. So the word that they were looking for here was haarstyle, a different hairstyle. Okay, your advertisement. So when you are analyzing your advertisement, you need to look at obviously the images, because remember this is part of your visual comprehension. And then you need to look at like what is the key information. Your words in bold are going to be really important. And then also look for anything unusual. Like here you can see instead of dots, they're using the emojis. So you need to think about why would they be using those emojis. Always look for contact information, which they've got here, and they've got email, and then definitely social media. They like to ask questions about that. One of the questions that they always ask about advertisements is how do they draw the attention to the advertisement? Okay, and you want to talk here and you want to say the words are big and bold. So the word for bold is you would say vet gedruk. So vet gedruk means bold. Obviously, you've got groot letters. And also what you could become is very literal. You've got swart op wit, black on white. So that usually makes things stand out. When you're answering a question like, how do they draw the attention? It's not, I would give multiple answers. Like in this case, you can see that there are lots of pictures. So you would say daar is prente or daar is foto's or whatever. But you need to also talk about the images, and you can see that was one of the questions there. Okay, so when you're analyzing your advertisement, always look at everything in context to what the pictures are. So even if you don't know what a leercentrum is or a cursusse is, or what any of these words mean, the pictures are going to tell you what they mean. Then you'll be able to work out that quirk means cooking, okay? Robotica means robots. Music means music, and then you can work out what the others are. So when you're looking at a word and you want to try and work out what a word means, don't just look at the word, always look at it in context of how the word is being used. All right, then with your spot printer, again, you don't need to read the whole thing. You can just have a look at it, look at the pictures, get an idea for what it's all about. And then when you start answering the questions, you can start looking at in detail. Okay, you got Frikkie, Mavis, and Tandi are the three characters, and then you're having a look at it in sort of from each person's different point of view. They do include some grammar in this. So like here, this one is about indirect speech. And then the rest of it was comprehension questions. This was another advertisement. It was more about comparisons because you can see here they had all the different places, but it was very much about comparing prices at all the different places. So this almost was like an infographic more than an advertisement. Okay, for your opsommings, You need to look very carefully at what are they asking you to do. This was about te veel van enige ding is sleg vir jou. So this was about die nadele van sosiale media. Okay. So you've got to summarize 7 facts about the nadele of social media. Even if you don't know what nadele is, it doesn't matter because the information will be in the summary. But remember, you always need to have a title for your summary. You're only allowed to write 1 sentence for each one. You've got a number 1 to 7. You've got to leave a line in between, and you've got to put your word count. So the thing with summaries is a lot of people lose marks for silly little things like not numbering or not giving a word count or not leaving a line. I mean, that is just basic information. So you need to be super careful about it. When you're doing your summary, the key is to look for repetition. Okay, so you can have a look here and you can see straight away it says hier volg 'n paar nadele. So straight away, you don't need to use that because that's the introduction. So it says baie van ons kinders is onaktief en oorgewig. Hulle bestee eerder tyd aan sosiale media as om fisies oefening te kry. So let's just look at those first 2 sentences. You're going to be looking for repetition. If you get 2 words joined by N, usually what it means is that those words have a similar meaning. So if you don't know what oorgewig means, but you know that onactief means inactive, you've still got an idea of what those mean. And again, remember, every word has a meaning in context. So lots of our children are inactive and over. You can probably work out what that word means. Hulle bestee eerder tyd aan sosiale media as om fisies oefening te kry. So they go onto social media. And then a very big clue is when you have an infinitive, that is often telling you that that information is really important. And you can see here, you've got physical, and then you've got oefening. So physical is a similar concept to not being active. And you also know that if you knew what oefening meant or didn't know what oefening meant, again, it's connected to being active. So now, you know, for this first point, it's all about being active or not active. You can choose which one you want to do. So this one, remember the summary was about social media. So you could say social media makes children inactive, or children do not get physical exercise because of social media. So you can see what I've done here is I've chosen one or the other. I'm not doing both. Oorgewig means overweight. So you could have also have included this if you wanted to, but it wasn't like a key part of the summary. The main thing was about activity or not being active. So that was the key information. Then with the second one here, I just want to give you another example. Tieners bly tot laat wakker om deur sosiale media te blaai en te blaai. 'n Studie deur navorsers in Londen het bevind dat dit tot slaaploosheid onder tieners lei. So now, tieners bly tot laat, late, you know, wakker, even if you don't know what wakker means or not, you know it's to do with staying up late because of social media. Then there was a study bevind that slaaploosheid, you would know, sleeplessness. So again, here is your repetition. Sleeplessness and staying up late are the same concept. So now you could say social media leads to sleeplessness, or social media makes teenagers go to sleep late. Again, that is your fact. And the fact is where there is a repetition of a concept. Doesn't need to necessarily be words. So not the same words are going to be repeated. So, but as you can see here, physical exercise and inactive is the same concept. And that's where the repetition is. And so this is what you need to do when you're going through your paragraphs and things. You need to look for concepts that are repeated, and then that is the fact that you need to include. And then you only need to include one part of it, because if you include both of them, it's just repetition, it's redundant. So you just choose one of them to mention. And when you are writing a summary, it's always a good idea to write a stompy sentence, okay? Because that's the easiest one to edit. You can lose marks for bad grammar if your sentence doesn't make sense. So what I would do is I would write stompy at the top of the page, and then every sentence that you write, you say, make sure it's a stompy sentence. If you really don't know what is going on, you can, but you know where the answer is, you can just quote directly. You will lose half a mark, and you can lose up to 2.5 marks for quoting directly. But I would rather do that than try and guess. If you're not absolutely sure, then just quote. Then for your main comprehension, the way to do this is to save a lot of time. You look at what the title is. So it says Op reis deur Suid-Afrika. Even if you don't know what race means, you know it's something to do with about South Africa. And it talks about 9 provincies, so 9 provinces. You can see here that there are images from different places. So now you know that this comprehension is going to be about South Africa. That's literally all you need to know. Then you need to look at your question. And the key for this is analyzing what is the question asking. Okay, so the first question was, let me go up here. Wat het veroorsaak dat mense vir 'n paar jaar lank nie in ons land getoer het nie? So this was asking about for a few years, okay, people did not come to our country. So what do you think veroorsaak means? So it's saying what? Okay, so what's something that people didn't come to our country for a few years? Okay, so that is analyzing what is the question asking. Then you go over here and you can see straight away you've got South Africa and you've got toerisme, which you know means people coming to the country, and you have got the word COVID. And so wat indicates that you need to find a fact, a noun. And this is how you need to start analyzing your questions. So you go here, it says noem 2 plekke in Suid-Afrika wat volgens paragraaf 1 deur baie mense besoek word. So this is talking about 2 places in South Africa that lots of people, even if you don't know what besoek means. So then you would go back here and you would have a look, and literally it only mentions 2 places. So the one is Kaapstad and the other one is the Nasionale Krugerwildtuin. So there you found your 2 names. So you can see how analyzing the question is the key to finding the answer. Once you've analyzed your questions correctly, you will be able to. So here you've got watter tipe seevoëls kan 'n mens op Boulderstrand sien. So now you're looking for Boulderstrand and you're looking for seevoëls. Okay, so let's go to Boulderstrand. All right, and we have a look here. You can see we've got Boulderstrand here. Dit is deel van die Tafelberg Nasionale Park. Omdat groot rotse die golwe afkeer, is dit 'n veilige strand. Duisende Afrika pikkewyne lê op die groot rotse. En baie besoekers kom na hierdie swart en wit seevoëls met hulle unieke stappie. Okay, so this is telling us that here's your answer. So you've got to say what birds, and then most people would realize that penguins are birds. And here you've got Afrika pikkewyne. So that would be your answer. Okay, so just remember when you are analyzing your questions, the questions are telling you where to find the answer. And all you've got to do is find the key information in those questions. So this question here was, hoe weet ons dat die Sandmense eeue gelede in die Kangu-grotte gewoon het? So remember, who means how. How do we know that the Sand people were in the Kango Caves. So now we're going to go to Kango Caves here, and you've got Sandmense, and you see you've got Eeugelede. So we know this is where the answer is. It says hierdie grotte is eeue gelede deur die Sandmense bewoon. Hulle rotstekening kan vandag nog gesien word. So the question was, how do we know that the Sand people were in the Kango caves? And if you look here, hulle obviously means the Sand people, and you've got rotstekeninge. Rots means a rock. So here, this is the key word that you were looking for. Okay, so the rock drawings is telling us. And so that's how you are going to work through your comprehension. Find the key words in the question, find those key words in the text, and then look for, you need to work out from the question, like how do we know? The question, the answer there would be because of the drawings, or met watter groep mense in ons land se geskiedenis word Bathurst verbind. So with what group of people, even if you don't know what verbind means, you've got what group of people and you've got Bathurst. So let's go to Bathurst. You can see here you've got Bathurst, and now you're looking for people. If you have a look here, so it's obviously not South Africa. En hierdie klein dorpie is die erfenis van die 1820 settlers nog baie. So the Pig and Whistle pub would not be one. It wouldn't be the Big Pineapple, and it wouldn't be on Summerhill Farm. So the only thing that was left was the 1820 settlers. So that was your answer, the 1820 settlers. Okay, so I hope that's helped you do your comprehension a little bit better. As I say, analyze the questions, work out what is this question asking, find where the answer is, and then be very specific about what key words do they want in the answer to this question. And then if you do this, you will find comprehensions way easier than reading a question and trying to guess what the question is asking. Don't guess. Analyze the question and focus on what information are they looking for.